everybody. Welcome to the first edition of That Epic College Football Show. We're going to come to you every week to talk some college football with you guys. Leave your comments below, follow us, subscribe, all that stuff. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Each week we will be here with, at minimum, T. Hall, Mr. T. Hall, to talk college. College is kind of your thing. It's your wheelhouse. It's what you get excited about. Even though you're a Gators fan, you still get excited about college football.
Absolutely. I love college football. Been watching it since I was 3 or 4 years old, as far back as I can remember.
Now, I know you said you live in South Carolina, and so you got the whole rivalry between the Gamecocks and Clemson going on. You grew up Clemson, but both your kids, you actually split the household. One went to Clemson, one went to South Carolina. So as far as like rivalry goes, you know, you couldn't get away with that if you lived in Ohio. You couldn't wear like Michigan and Ohio State, but I don't know if you can get away with it in South Carolina either.
That's why I don't wear either one.
I'm not sure Florida's better.
No, I'm not sure Florida right now is in a situation where I can really say anything to either one of them.
That's okay though, because we're gonna get into it. I mean, let's just get right into the big question. I'm not gonna make you like predict who's going to the national championship game, but let's talk about who's gonna be in the discussion. And we know Alabama's gonna be there. We know Georgia is gonna be there. We know Ohio State and Michigan are gonna be there. But how do you see it kind of playing out? Like who's actually got a shot this year?
Okay, so I think Georgia's going to be there. They obviously have a cupcake schedule. I mean, their toughest game may be Florida, and that's not a whole lot to worry about. So I think Georgia gets there. I think Michigan gets there. I think Michigan on paper is the best team in the country. With as long as the running back stays healthy, the defense is solid. I think this might be the year Michigan gives Georgia a run for their money.
A lot of people say it though.
I hate to say that I think USC's got a chance to be there. Southern Cal now, not the fake USC.
Right. Yes.
I think Southern Cal. I just don't know. Like any Lincoln Riley coach team blows it in a big game. I mean, you can go back to all his times in the playoffs. He's never been able to get his team up. Even last year, he couldn't get his team up in the championship game, the Pac-12 championship game, to get to the playoff. I like USC's schedule. I like USC's roster. I'm just not sold on Lincoln Riley getting them there. And I'm going to throw a dark horse out there for you.
Okay.
Last year in the Big 12, I think Texas has got a shot.
Texas. I mean, they're new, right?
I like Texas's shot. Their schedule's not really hard. Oklahoma's down. I mean, TCU lost their quarterback. TCU lost their number one receiver. TCU might have been a one-year wonder. I think Texas has got a shot. If Texas don't get in, obviously, I think Alabama will. But just trying to go off the record a little bit, I think Texas has got a shot.
Texas has a shot, so that's your outside shot. Who else has an outside shot? Let's go to the Big Ten. We'll come back to the SEC because everything's always going to come back to the SEC. Go over to the Big Ten. Michigan's probably the front runner. As a Buckeye fan, I can admit that. They beat us last year. They're on top until they get beaten. I get it. Ohio State is probably the second guy. So who's the third that has a shot at this thing?
Penn State. Penn State. As long as Franklin can get his team to play in the big games, they've got the roster to give Ohio State a run for their money. I don't think they will because Ohio State's just got talent everywhere. But I think Penn State, that being said, I think Penn State's got a good shot out of the Big Ten.
Sure.
Iowa, but I don't think Iowa can score enough points.
Iowa's usually got a nice defense.
But they don't never score enough points.
Exactly. You gotta hit both sides in college. Pac-12, as if it matters. That's not really fair to say. It's maybe a little biased, but I mean, honestly, Pac-12 just really hasn't contended. Now they got the reigning Heisman candidate or a trophy winner, and we'll get into that in a second. They got another Heisman Trophy candidate for that matter. But who out of the Pac-12 is the likely one to come out on top? And do they even make the playoff?
I'll go Utah or Oregon. Utah, as long as Cam Rising's healthy, Utah's a tough team. And as much as I hate to say it, that's who we start with tonight. and everything I've read says Cam Rising's not playing. But if Cam Rising's
Right.
healthy, Utah won the Pac-12 last year. I mean, they upset USC in the championship game. But don't forget about Bo Nix in Oregon. Bo Nix has changed his whole persona when he went to Oregon. He was the guy at Auburn that couldn't win the big game and got frustrated. He went to Oregon last year and broke most of Oregon's passing records. I think Bo
Yep.
Nix in Oregon can give him a shot. I mean, like I say, it just depends on how Lincoln Riley, how he coaches. If he coaches like he did last year, they won't even be in the Rose Bowl.
Second year in, I mean, you expect maybe some better results, right?
But you got to play
get
defense.
your own recruits in, you get your coaching staff on board. I mean,
but he bought his whole recruiting class from Oklahoma with him.
Well,
Caleb Williams was
a lot of them, yeah.
I mean,
No, I was gonna say going back to the SEC, Georgia probably the front runner, even with Alabama.
Oh, by far. So? As long as, and I think Georgia fans are going to forget about Stetson Bennett. I mean, I know you hate to hear that, but the quarterback they got coming in is a beast. I mean, he's huge, and he's got that tight end. I mean, Georgia's just Georgia. They don't recruit against anybody. I mean, who do they have to recruit against? Georgia Tech? Nobody goes to Georgia Tech unless you're really, really, really smart. Georgia's going to be there.
So Georgia and Alabama, those are obviously your front runners. You don't even have to. I mean, you knew that 5 years ago. Who's the other team in the SEC?
I'd say out of the East, it would be Tennessee. They say the quarterback at Tennessee this year is better than Hendon Hooker.
Don't they say that every year though? I feel like they say that every year.
I feel like they say it every year, but I mean, you gotta admit, Heupel's done a great job at Tennessee.
No, yeah,
they were a good team last year.
Got to stay.
They were a really good team if they stay healthy. Out of the West, you're gonna laugh when I say this, but you better watch out for Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, I like Ole Miss better last year. I feel like they lost too many people this year. The consensus is LSU, but I like that you're saying Ole Miss.
LSU, don't get me wrong. LSU maybe I always forget about LSU. Brian Kelly could coach at Notre Dame. Imagine what he's going to do in 2 or 3 years when he gets them players. He can get players at LSU he couldn't get at Notre Dame. LSU next year will be the team to watch out for. I think LSU still got a growing year. The quarterback's only going to be in the second year system. He could end up being a Heisman candidate. Not sure. I just think that nobody is going to sleep on LSU this year like they did last year. Alabama's already going to be mad and want to get revenge for what happened last year. But like I said, don't sleep on LSU for the next couple of years. But Ole Miss, something about Lane Kiffin, that dude's just different. People don't like him.
Right.
He's arrogant.
I like him, but the guy can coach college football. I mean,
if he wants to come to Florida, I'll go get him right now in my truck, bring him on.
So you brought up the Heisman. Caleb Williams, I think Caleb Williams is probably still the front runner. I mean, if you win the Heisman, you got to be the front runner to win it again, I guess, even though that doesn't happen very often. So as long as he stays healthy, he's probably got an automatic bid to New York. Who else is going to get a ticket?
I think Bo Nix has got a shot at getting a ticket. It depends on the season Oregon has. I think Drake May from North Carolina, obviously. I mean, everybody's talking about him right now. Is he going to end up being like Trubisky and being a system quarterback?
Dark horse #1 candidate, right? That's how I see him. I see him as like the dark horse #1 candidate.
And I think the running back
Detroit of NFL. Everybody wants to be a fan.
I think that the running back from Michigan obviously gets a bid. And I'm going to give you a dark horse. And you're going to like this dark horse. As long as he gets good quarterback play, Marvin Harrison Jr. may be the best player in college football
Marvin
this
Harrison Jr. is fantastic, and he could get an invite. I mean, he won't win. They're not going to give it to a receiver, but he definitely could get an invite. I don't see it. When's the last time a receiver won the Heisman?
Well, you can cancel Caleb Williams. No, it's been since then.
It's been
the boy from Alabama. Yeah. Devontae Smith. I'll tell you why. You can cancel Caleb Williams out. The Heisman voters never tend to give it a second time around.
They usually don't. Like even Tebow finished second, didn't he? Didn't Tebow?
Yeah, Tebow should have won it. He was better his second year than the year he won it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
But I think you can cancel Caleb Williams out. Marvin Harrison Jr. As long as they get good quarterback play, it's gonna be hard to tell him he can't go to New York. I mean, that kid is
No, that's
amazing. I mean,
oh yeah, no, he
he
definitely
sat behind the
he plays in the
lobby and
Pac-12. I mean, you play in the Pac-12 and you're any good, like that's why I agree with you on Bo Nix. I mean, those two should be the two top teams. They should have the most opportunity. They should have big numbers. I don't know. I definitely don't disagree with any of those picks, to be perfectly honest. We're going into week 1 and officially week 1 because 0 week is 0 week.
yeah.
There are games on the schedule. I think a lot of people like to open up with a win so they don't schedule things, but that doesn't mean that there isn't any games to watch this weekend. What games are you kind of watching out for in week 1?
Well, first and foremost, I'm watching out for Colorado and TCU. I mean, I just got to see what Dion does.
Everybody
Is
kind of
he
wants to
ready?
see that, right?
Is
Yeah, is
he
he ready,
ready for
especially
big?
after all the
Is
health concerns and all that,
is
all the
he ready
trash
for
talk?
big time? All that playing down is different. Now you whip into the big boys. Let's see what you open up with the runner up in the national championship. TCU minus a quarterback,
I
minus
lost
receiver,
you.
minus.
I lost you for that whole answer. Everything you just said. After all that, I lost you on
I
the whole
said
thing.
I I'm looking for Colorado just because I want to see what Dion does.
Mm-hmm.
But are you gonna open up and be Dion the coach? Or are you gonna be Dion the I want all these players from my other team?
Yeah.
Opening it up with the last year's national championship runner up.
I think that kind of
Now
hit everybody sideways when he did that. I didn't really care for it personally, but I mean, there's something to be said for being transparent as well, I guess. So anything,
Dion.
yeah, anything besides that one, I have to watch. I'm in a split household. I'm a Buckeye household and a Sooner household, and they happen to play each other in week 1. So I might have to quietly root in the background.
LSU and Florida State. I mean, that's
LSU
just
and
going to be
Florida
a
State, because I mean,
that's
people are
going to
watching
be a
LSU, right? I mean, LSU is in the conversation as possible dark horse,
so is Florida
regardless.
State. A lot of
But
people think Florida State can overtake Clemson for the ACC.
we
I
didn't
don't
really talk
personally.
about ACC, but I guess Clemson's the front runner there.
I don't really think Florida State can overtake Clemson, but I do think they have a good shot against LSU. It's just that game. Then you have South Carolina and North Carolina. All I've heard for the past year is how this is the year for the Gamecock. Spencer Rattler.
They literally say that every year.
Yeah, well, this year's been a little bit more obnoxious.
Heavy on it.
You're
Yeah.
basing everything that happened. All this hype is coming off of 2 games. 2 games. The week before they beat Tennessee, they rolled into Gainesville and got their eyes beat out. I mean,
Yeah.
literally. So we'll see.
But they
I
had the
think that
big wins, and they looked dominant when they beat Clemson. They looked dominant in those big wins. So I mean, I get it. In I guess if you're a Gamecock fan, you're happy about your team. You're happy about how they finished. They gave you something to be excited about, but let's not get too crazy with it. I don't think.
yeah, I don't see them winning 12.
LSU and Florida
And
State, I
then
think, are the only ranked teams playing this week in
I think
week
you might be
1.
right.
And then, of course, we'll have a little shakeup in the top 25 after this week. Do you have any upsets, anything that could happen that's really going to shake things up?
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see West Virginia giving Penn State. I just said Penn State might be the third best team in that Big Ten, but West Virginia tends to play big teams well.
They
Not
really
saying they'll
do.
win. They
No, they
play
have a
big teams
history
well.
of it. Yeah.
Yes. And then there's another game that I want to watch. And I'm a little biased on this game because Chip Kelly was supposed to come to Florida. But I think Coastal can give UCLA a game out in Los Angeles.
Maybe for the first
Coastal,
half, right?
yeah. But you never
I
know
mean,
what happens
they
with a
just
Chip
had a
Kelly
good
team.
they had a nice first half last week, from an opponent before they blew the
Yeah.
doors off.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're still Coastal, and Jamie Caldwell's gone and stuff like that. But I still think they're a better team than people give them credit for. They're one of them App State teams that can sneak up on you in any week, and you never know with a Chip
That App
Kelly
State.
coach team. Sometimes Chip Kelly coach teams play really well. Sometimes they don't show up. So
Lastly, have you watched the Florida thing on Netflix, the docu-series, I guess you call it?
you're seriously gonna ask me? No, I haven't. I started watching it, and every time Urban Meyer opens his mouth, I want to throw up. I love those
loved
teams.
Urban Meyer back then. You loved Urban Meyer.
That's before he kicked his kicker and cussed out his whole football team. I was just speaking to a buddy of mine that's a big Florida fan about it. I told him, I said, I love Rainey, I love Tebow, Brandon Spikes, Percy Harvin. I love all of them. But every time Urban opened his mouth, I want to puke. I cannot. I mean, somebody told me that if he came back to Florida, you'd be happy. I said, I told you this. If he came back to Florida and you told me we'd never lose another game, I'd rather go 0-11. I'd rather never win another game than have Urban Meyer back at my school.
All right, this weekend, week 1, college games coming up. It's finally here. NFL just around the corner, but college is where you live. College is where it's at. Give me the prediction. Give me a big prediction for the season as we wrap up the show.
Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up in New York, holding the Heisman Trophy at the end of the season.
Holding the Heisman
Trophy at the end of the season.
I would.
And Michigan will hold the national championship this year. No, Harbaugh gets it done.
Nope. They got to go through us. They haven't.
Y'all.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask how Florida is going to end. We'll finish the show on that. How is Florida going to finish?
I'm hearing anywhere from 6-6 to 3-9. I really don't have expectations, Chris. Next year we've got a really good recruiting class coming in. I'm not big on firing coaches after 2 or 3 years. I say let's give Napier his time. Let's see, what he builds. I mean, Nick Saban didn't build Alabama in 2 seasons. Kirby Smart didn't build Georgia in 2 seasons. Let's see what the man can do. Let's give him his time. If we gotta take our lumps for a year or 2, and then 3-4 years from now we own the SEC, I'm good with it. I think they're going to be better than people think they're going to be. I just don't think they're going to be something. I don't think they got to worry about them upsetting Georgia, or I don't think you got to worry about them competing for the title. But I do think they're going to be a lot better team than people think they're going to be.
Do they make a bowl game?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean everybody makes a bowl game.
No, I think
could they beat the Buckeyes this year?
No.
Hell no, they couldn't beat the Buckeyes this year.
Then again, every time we've been told we couldn't beat the Buckeyes, and
with that,
we did.
We're going to wrap it up. We appreciate you guys joining us. Keep coming back every week. We're going to keep rolling through this. Let us know what you want to talk about, what you need T to bring to the show, because he can bring it all. He brings it every week. I know this guy for a while.
I love it. It's what I live for.
Hey, check us out on @the EFIN show, EFIN. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Use that keyword EFIN. You can find us on YouTube at That EFIN Sports Show, or on Twitter at That EFIN Show. It's right there under my name, guys. We will see you guys next week. T, be safe so you can join us next week. It's college football season, my friend.
College football, baby.
Let's go. Go Buckeyes.
Go Gators.